What's up guys, this is Wolves here, and today we have another video. Now this video is going to be a sequel to the speculations for FlexQ. This one's going to be called the MMR system for the FlexQ. Now I'm talking a little bit more in depth about the MMR system and what I think it's going to become of it. So anyway, before I start off this video, I want to say thank you very much for everyone that watched my previous video. It's currently sitting on 400 views. That's massive. I didn't expect it to be that big, so that's one of the reasons it prompted me to make this video. Now I have gotten feedback from the previous videos I did, so that's one of the reasons I have this. It is a table of content, so people were saying that, hey look, you have really good content, but you really don't get into the nitty-gritty until like very late on in your videos. So that's one of the reasons they said, hey, you need to outline like what are you going to be talking about in these videos. You have some good points, but not many people stick around to sort of see them and see what you're capable of. So here is the table of contents. So the things I'm going to be talking about is what the community wanted. So each of these are slides. Key concepts behind FlexQ. What statistics they were going to look at. Right, so this is Riot that we're talking about, and how the averages are going to work. And lastly, what does this mean for everyone else? Now, thank you very much to all my new subscribers. I know we're currently sitting on 23, but it's a long way from where we were before, so thank you very much. Welcome, and I hope to see you guys, the rest of you guys, subscribing to me soon. It really helps out. You don't know how much it helps out, but it really helps, and I'm super appreciative. But anyway, let's get straight to this. Very first slide that we do have is called what the community wanted. Now, firstly, they wanted better teammates. Now this is because of the disparity between allies and enemy teams kind of made it hard for them to win games, because you'd go from a game where you were totally dominating the enemy team, and then the next game you're getting totally jackhammered. So it was kind of really hard to actually win those games and find like a proper balance where you had good teammates versus good opponents, and it was going all good, right? And if you lost, you knew that you lost because you couldn't match up and there was a misplay, or like the comps out scale or whatever, right? It wasn't because there was such a massive disparity. It was a really good game, and it could have gone either way. You want that 50-50. The next thing that the community wanted, they were appealing to Riot. So this is all across 2016. What they said in their boards and stuff. So they wanted to be paired with equally performing allies in comparison to their skills. So some people were getting paired with absolutely people who were not fairly well coerced in that game, so fairly new to the game, but then they were getting paired with people who who were way better than them and they couldn't really keep up, or like people with their performance grades. Not like a lot of people are getting S's, so they want to get paired up with people who are getting more S's, so S minus, S plus, or whatever, right? They also wanted a system to deal with the AFKs and rage critters. Now I actually don't think Riot's going to be actually doing anything to deal with this in the recent preseason changes, and probably early 2017. Hopefully in the near future though, I really want Riot to actually deal with this, because it does affect a lot of people in the lower queues where it's like they get their promise messed with, right? But anyway, let's go on to the next slide, which is the key concept behind the FlexQ. And now you guys have all been waiting for this, so let's get straight to it. So the first thing was to actually get large groups to play together. So this was the key thing that Riot was focusing on, and that's one of the reasons that dynamic queue was actually around, is that they wanted large groups of people to actually play together without having to play ranked queues, because there was also disparity in the types of teams that you would be versing, whereas solo queue or like dynamic queue, you would get to face people of equivalent skill and whatever. So that was one of the reasons, one of the things they considered for FlexQ, and that's how FlexQ came about. Previously, it was very restrictive unless you had Smurf. So if you had a teammate, or like not a teammate, a friend or someone you knew who was like, say, Platinum, Diamond, and you were sitting in I don't know, I want to say silver or goldish, you can't really queue up with them in that regard. So a gold can't queue up with a diamond, a silver can't queue up with a platinum, because they were too far apart, and unless they had a Smurf, they couldn't really play together. And even though there was dynamic queue, it didn't allow for this, and that's one of the reasons why FlexQ is around, to actually allow people to play with their friends or people you know, right? So that's one of the things they considered for FlexQ. Secondly, they wanted to experiment with a full reset. Now this is mind-blowing because people have been saying or asking for a full reset. Now Riot hasn't really considered this until this season because of the player pool that they have. In actuality, like, there is no movement between like the number of players that are moving up and moving down or whatever, right? So that's one of the reasons why they were actually willing to looking to consider a full reset to see how people are pairing up to one another across leagues, because the league has been around for 7 years and wanted to see how well people have adjusted to this game. Because what they saw, or what the standard trend used to be, was people that were previously accustomed to MOBAs would come in and they would just climb up. People who were still in the leagues would slowly climb, but there wouldn't be a massive change in their rankings because due to reasons where like they couldn't really get out because of their teammates, right? Because of the skill level they were matched with and against, right? And the other concept behind the FlexQ was they wanted to experiment with a totally new MMR system, right? Because we've been with the old MMR system. I know it's been changed once, and I think they're trying a new MMR system that could be to better pair people with equivalent skill whilst taking into consideration the queue timers that we're actually dealing with and the game quality. Now, this are the two biggest issues that we do face in League of Legends, and I think Riot's actually taking a step forward. This also because, you know, the Kog'Maw changes, they were able to put it forward and then said, hey, look, this is not what we wanted, so we'll take it back. So they're not afraid to make mistakes and then revert it and then try again, right? So this is a huge step for Riot, and I think they're going in the right direction for all of this. And these are all the concepts for FlexQ that we're going to be seeing. So let's get on to the next slide, which is actually what statistics they were going to look at. Now, people have been asking me like, okay, so FlexQ, right? So what are they going to look at? Because I've been trying to explain it to them. So this slide will sort of give you an overview of what I think it is. So they probably will be taking the average player performance and different leagues all through bronze to challenger to come up with a proper MMR system. So they do have to actually consider their most recent data, which will probably be all across 2016. And because they put a motivation factor of jackets and medallions, so they might be looking at the average player performance in through when they actually announce those prizes till the actual finish date or the end of season date. So they may be looking at that data there. So they'll probably be working out the averages from there. Things that they are going to be looking at with the new MMR system and how it's going to be calculated. So the statistics are going to probably be creep score. One of the reasons creep score is considered is because they've actually highlighted this in the recent recent article that they said, like how much creep score Faker had, how much creep score Jerkson had, and what the average player generally tends to get as their creep score, right? So they actually may be looking at creep score, and it'll probably be like a hint towards, hey, we're actually considering this, right? So that could be what they're looking at for one of the statistics for the new MMR system. Next up, rewarding. Now, it's not fair because every role is different, therefore rewarding does play a factor, so it can be dependent on what role you play. So creep score is not going to be fairly relevant if you're playing a support role, but it's going to heavily look into your warding, right? So it could be role dependent. So solo lanes and jungle will definitely get their creep scores checked, and supports are probably going to get their warding checked and whatnot. Other laners will probably get their warding checked, but it's not going to be to the scale of a support, right? And also gold per minute, so your GPM is probably going to matter a lot, because GPM influences, it takes everything into consideration, such as the creep scores. You get gold from creep scores, you get gold from kills, you get gold from objectives, both standing and neutral, so and even camps, really. So you get gold from a lot of places, and if you have a really high GPM, that means you're actively doing something to get generate gold and get like more items, right? So it's a massive attribute or statistic that you want to be looking at, and I think it's going to be considered fairly heavily. Gameplay sorry, not gameplay, game length is another one, because if you're playing in a game where you know what you're doing at certain parts of the game, or you know how to take a lead and actually finish off of that, the games are going to be a lot shorter, they're going to be a lot quicker, and they're going to be a lot more decisive. So yeah, so game length is going to be considered, right? Because if you don't know what you're doing, the chances are you're going to extend the game past 30 minutes and probably stall to a loss or maybe even a win, but still you wouldn't know what you're doing. You just won because you either outscaled or the enemy team just gave up or sort of screwed up a little, right? KDA is another thing. Now I have a question mark next to KDA because there's reasons why it can be considered and reasons why it can't be considered. So the reason why it can be considered is a good KDA means that you knew how to play safe, you knew how to have an impact with your team and like get a couple of kills under your belt and stuff like that, right? So a good KDA means like you're a good what do you call it, a stable player, a consistent player. But at the same time, it could also be that you're just a KDA player, right? So you're not concerned about if you're winning, if you're losing, you just want to have good statistics. So that's one of the reasons why it may not actually be considered. So that's why I have a question mark to that statistic that I mentioned out, right? So things that they won't actually be looking at. So they won't actually be looking at win ratios because they want the games to be of equal percentages. So 50% is what they want. Like it's 50% likely that you're gonna win this game, and it's 50% likely you're gonna lose this game. So they want the ratios to match up. They're gonna match you up with people of equivalent skill on both your team and your enemy team. Sorry, excuse me. And yeah, so that's one of the reasons why they won't be looking at win ratio. And obviously, it's not gonna affect you in that sense that if you rapidly climb. So if you get placed in bronze and you win like 20 games in a row and you go up to 70% win ratio or something insane like that, it's not going to immediately put you in a challenger level game, right? So that's something is not going to happen. So that's one of the reasons why they're not going to be looking at the win ratio. Damage dealt, this is another thing as well, because you can have games where you sort of pop off. You can have games where you're sort of not doing anything, you're just running around taking objectives, really, and then you wouldn't have as high damage dealt. So that's one of the reasons they're not going to be looking at damage dealt, because you can be either playing a carry role, a utility role, yada. So damage dealt is not super relevant to these roles because it just depends on the type of champion you're playing and the game situation in that game. So they're not actually going to be looking at damage dealt. So the next thing is objectives taken. Now the reason why this isn't there is primarily focused on the neutral objectives, because turn and also a little bit on turn, because if someone else took the turn, you probably wouldn't get credit for actually taking the turn. So that's one of the reasons they don't want objective takens. Obviously, neutral objectives such as Dragon and Baron, say if it was stolen, then it would probably go to the other team. So that means they actually, it would give a false, what do you call it? A false idea on behind whose idea it actually was, and what team actually attempted to get it in comparison to which team actually got it, right? So it's kind of false information in that regard, because it was a steal and it was a desperate play rather than a calculated play, right? And obviously they won't be looking at champion level, because I think like some games will probably end a lot sooner than 20 minutes, so you wouldn't even be level 18 by that time, and some games are going to drag out to like 40 minutes or whatever, so you'll actually read that high level 18 mark, right? So they're probably not going to be looking at champion levels in those games, right? So these are all averages that they're going to be looking at, and that's probably going to describe what statistics are going to be super relevant to this new MMR system, right? So going on to the next slide, we have how the averages are going to work. Now, I think from my point of view, like this is totally my opinion. I think it's going to be your overall performance averages across 20 games. Now, the reason I say 20 games is because the badge system that you get for solo queue and dynamic queue was calculated across 20 games. So that means that they have a system in place that can calculate things across 20 games, right? So like whether or not you do it for 20 games or whether or not like majority and yada. So they had a system in place that could do 20 games, and that's one of the reasons why I think 20 games would be considered like the overall average that they're going to work on. and 20 games is a pretty big pool, right? And I think it's a okay pool, right? If you go a little bit higher than that, then it becomes a little too, like, that's too many games. If you go lower, then it's too little games to actually get a proper indication of what the player's skill is at, right? Next up is it also might get compared to the average player performance through all tiers. So basically, how you perform in comparison to someone in bronze, silver, gold, platinum, diamond, master, challenge, right? So that could be considered like over these 20 games, or like your statistics in general, and like how you match up with these players. Obviously, this data is going to be old, so it's going to be 2016 data. It may just even be the recent data that they're seeing, but I think it's more than likely going to be the 2016 data and how you compare to the people in that tiers, or just even the top tier. So they're going to work under a percentile system, or like a percentage system, a quartile or a percentage system, where like how far below the top percentage are you and where you fall in. So if you fall in this category, then you're dedicated, like you get to play against these players, and obviously you get placed in this tier group, right? It's just below diamond or just below platinum, whichever one it is, you will just get placed into that quartile, because based on your average statistics and how it compares up to the, like your average performance compares up to the average player in the top ranks, right? And the other thing, obviously, it could be some average attributes may count more to your MMR than others, right? So say things like creep score would probably count more than the gold per minute, right? Is because gold per minute is not fairly, it's not super reflective, because like your team could be running around getting all these objectives while you're not actually having an impact. So that's one of the reasons why gold, what do you call it, a gold per minute is not super relevant, but it is still relevant, but not as relevant as creep score, which is totally dependent on your individual play. So therefore, making you focus on your individual skills and attributes and what you have to offer your team. So some attributes may, like, or statistics may contribute a little bit more to these systems, right? So moving on to the next slide, which is what does this mean for everyone, and this is going to be the last slide. So thank you very much for sticking around to the very end. So I'll just quickly get through this. So the what does this mean for everyone? So equivalently matching with teammates and opponents, right? So the new flex system is going to make it so you're actually going to get paired with people of equal skill, and that includes your allies and your opponents, right? So yeah, so that's going to be super cool, because I think that's where the game should be at already, and I think Riot is taking the right initiative and step towards getting us there. The game makes you focus on performing better to get matched with better players, and this allows you to focus on your individual play rather than focusing on someone else. So if you perform better as a player, you get to play with better players and eventually climb to a better rank or get placed in a better rank. So it's a lot more focused on your individual skill rather than what you can do as a team, right? So I know it is a team game, it can be contradictory, but at a certain level, like, teamwork just arises if you're just playing with top level players and then you know what to do in certain circumstances, right? So that's some people's analogy into what a top level team is. But just, yeah, so it allows you to focus on your individual play, and if you do better, you get to play with better people, really. And like 2 more points to go. So may lead to an improved community. Now this is what Riot has been trying to do for the past 6 years, I should say, and I think it's actually getting to the point where it actually might be working. So the salt might be gone. I'm not too sure, but like basically they know that if they perform better and if they stick till the end, if they try their best, they will be playing with better teammates. So therefore they're not going to be as likely to rage quit, AFK, or do these other things to like impact your gameplay, because it's going to affect their overall statistics. Therefore they are not going to be doing this. So it may just lead to a better, improved community, right? And lastly, better competitive integrity. It means that everyone's individual skills are taken into consideration. So that means like better skilled people will play against better opponents, and if you have good skill, then you're going to be playing with like people of equal skill or like better skill, and everyone's just going to improve in general. So it pushes the top level players to even play better, to be able to be at the top, and it also allows for other players to sort of cycle through and make it to the top, right? So that's what I'm really excited about. So yeah, so Riot's going in a pretty cool direction with all of this, and I think it's gonna be spectacular. I'm really excited for FlexQ. I'm really excited to see what it's gonna be like in 2017. And yeah, thank you very guys for sitting through this presentation. I know my presentations are long, but I think it kind of highlights everything that I want to like get across. And yeah, if you guys really enjoyed it, make sure to like it. If you disliked it, make sure to dislike it. Leave a comment, check out the description, make sure to subscribe to get notifications on my recent videos. And yeah, thanks for watching guys. Wolves out.